Hello everyone and welcome to the stream. So happy to have you all. Hello Master Fail. Hello Cygnus Uwu. Hello Olivia Crowley, my favorite vampire mommy. Hello Cereza, the Fey Witch BT. And hello Nascarlo. Welcome, welcome. Oh my gosh, Asai, welcome. Long time no see, little German boy. Oh, Asai, you want to be my little PogChamp? Well, that's fine. Oh, Asai, thank you so much for doing this redeem. I just want you to know that I'm just saying what we've all been thinking. And that's that you, Asai, yes, you are my little PogChamp. And there's nothing that can change that. I've come here to tell you one thing, one opportunity. Don't let it pass you by. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming. Also, thank you everybody who came to my anniversary stream on Monday. I have followed your example of doing funny edits for my stream announcements. Awesome. I love to hear it, Asai. It's really, it adds so much fun to the announcement. But of course, Asai, I learned that on the street. Mostly from watching videos talking about making thumbnails. So I put like a moderate amount of effort into making my thumbnails now, but not as much as I probably should. But that's because I have a job. But I thank you everybody who came to my my streamiversary on Monday. We had a great turnout. We had a lot of fun. I hope everybody enjoyed some of the ye old Obsidia clips, some of that what's it called? Some bad karaoke, as well as some little doodles. Thank you, Dark Elf. Welcome, welcome. And I hope that it was a lot of fun for everybody. I had a lot of fun. I'm so happy I got to share. I got to share that day with all of you. And I hope you all had fun. And what else was there? I don't remember. Oh yeah, and in the hypest, the biggest, the most awesome of news, we hit our charity goal of $1,500. Yeah, that's right, baby. We managed to go through 4 milestones. Cygnus was the key player in the end, donating $150 at the end for us to hit $1,500. Huge shout out to everybody who donated. I did a what's it called? I posted on Twitter a chain of messages where I thanked everybody who donated, and I tried to at everybody who had a Twitter handle that I was aware of. So if you want to go see the thing, go check it out. Especially extra big shout outs for Cygnus, who donated cumulatively $500.93. Otaku Waifu Gon, who donated $160. Krista the Feisty Fireball, who donated $150. And Ethereal Koala for donating $120. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Wake up, Samurai. We've got a steampunk world build. Soon it'll be a year since I met you? That's so hype, Kano. If the 93 cents came up because Michael was donating like random dollar amounts and you wanted to bring it back to a whole number. So that is the origin story of that. Now let me switch to an infinitely more powerful form. One moment. Here we go. We got Small Night City. Do-do-do-do-do. I'm Small Night City. Happy to see ya here. Hear me cheer. Yeah. Poggers. Goddamn right. All right. Get all you foxos, doggos, and wolfos out in chat. Please feel free to join in with me for this a woo. here we go. Ah, woo! Ah, woo! Ah, woo! There you go. Also, if you didn't notice, Tama added the fangs to the small Cydias. So, because Obsidia does have fangs. So, if you look closely, I've got little fangs. But yeah, so I'm very hype about that. But yeah, thank you all for donating. I am also super hype about the fact that literally, yes, literally, hello music to love. Literally, Trans Lifeline responded to my Twitter post where I was saying all the money I raised. That's so awesome. Like, I can't believe that's the first time they've actually like responded to my charity effort. So that's really cool. That made me feel really good today. So thank you all for that. Are you feeding donuts to the wooing Obsidia? So I gotta go. I'm tired as heck. Okay, Asai, have a good night. Have the sweetest of dreams. Thank you for coming by. So what is on the agenda for tonight? Well, first of all, gender is a social construct. Secondly, we are gonna talk about D&D. We're gonna build a world. Yeah, yeah, yeah. For those of you who weren't here last time, I did the part 1 explanation of my homebrew, the Chibi Cydia. Yep, Small Knight Cydia is a powerful breed. We did a talk about cosmology, where I talked about the gods, the afterlife, the Fey Quartz, and how the planes worked in the world. And then I started talking about Aurixia, which is the country that the campaign is set in. But we didn't have time to go into any more detail last Monday. So hopefully the goal of today's stream is to focus on talking about temporal world matters, talking about some of the factions that I've outlined, some of my philosophy behind the game and about the world, and talk a bit about some of the things I want to do with the campaign. Does that sound fun to everyone? Oh yeah, and another thing I talked about at the beginning of last stream was concepts of character creation, and like my views on like the races in D&D and stuff like that. So if you want to check out any of those factoids that I dropped last stream, you can go to my YouTube page, type in !YouTube, and I have the VOD uploaded there, which goes into the full detail of everything I talked about. Okay, SpaghettiOs. Let's do this. So we're gonna hop on over to a different part of the throne room. Hello, Theo. I'm sorry I didn't say that earlier. Hello, Theo. We're gonna hop on over to a different part of the throne room and start our character. I mean, our world building. Ta-da! All right, what we got here? I should actually make Small Knight Cydia larger. Ooh. We'll head a little bit. There we go. That's a big Cydia. Oh, it's okay, oh wonderful of Death Knights. Thank you, thank you. Alright, so we are going to click on both of these groups. There we go. I have to down. I didn't mean to. There we go. Oh, fuck. Someone gave me the small knight armor. Fear. She's gonna fight. I'm here to fight, fight, fight. Obsidian with the big head sheet on. Okay, I think enough time has gone by, too. I think I'm going to do a shout-out for Cereza, the Fey Witch VT. Be sure to check out Cereza. She's my favorite little foxo. A good bean, to say the least. Hello, Blessing. Thank you for the lurk. Be sure to check her out. She's a total sweetheart. She's been popping off lately, being a cutie pie. Then shout out to Olivia Crowley, everybody's favorite vampire mommy, now demon mommy. Olivia Crowley. Okay. What else was there? Oh yeah, time to turn on some music. If you want, you can type !BGM into chat, and it'll link you to the Last Seahorse's YouTube page. We're gonna listen to some of their DJ beats. This is what I was playing during my 1 year as background music. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. There we go. So it's more BGM-y. Well, you're popping off with being a cutie pie. Does that count, Cereza? Also, I'm sorry if you don't like being called Cereza. It's like, I was telling Yuko today that it was a force of habit because I said it as a joke, referencing, what's it called? Referencing DBZ Abridged and how Goku says Frieza. And so, I just got in the habit of doing that. Hello, the Eye of Thoth. What is Styxia like? It's, Cereza is adorable. Okay, I'm glad you think so. Okay, so we are going to do a brief lesson about Aurixia. Now that we're actually streaming. So, Aurixia. I want this to be, well, it's going to be slanted. It's just the world we live in. So, Aurixia is the nation that the campaign is set in. Aurixia is a mageocracy. This is stuff I did talk about this a bit last stream. Mageocracy. So, led by Arcane Conclave. So, yeah. Rixia is a mageocracy led by the Arcane Conclave. And, well, they used to be. Sorry. So we're going to go a little, we have to go backwards to go forward. Tambourine City, yeah. I think the tambourine is, oh, that's the wrong button. Yeah, it's the, this TBH. We'll just have a few more minutes of Small Night City, and then I'm going to switch over to my normal model and not have these issues because I'm typing a lot. Which reminds me, I probably should turn off the Night Cities for this. Just because I'm typing a whole bunch, and a bunch of my commands are letters that are the commands. I mean, whatever. You know what I'm saying. Okay. So, yes, Aurixia is a mageocracy. Previously, we have to do a brief explanation about Arcanite. I've got all these, like, I've got to explain one thing to explain another. So, here we go. This is why it all matters. Arcanite is magic ore slash fuel slash magic, I don't know, conduit. Oh, that's wildly misspelled. Conclave. So Arcanite is a magic ore slash fuel slash magic conduit that is the cornerstone of industrialization in my campaign setting. It is lots of theories exist about what it is, that it is the remains of ancient dragons from a draconic empire that existed thousands of years ago. Others say it's the raw substance of the plains. Others believe it is magical residue. Yes, it is magic oil, Alistair Nia. It's magic coal, to be closer. But, and so, previously in the timeline of the world, by appointee Archmage, the Conclave is actually a merit-based oligarchy. So yes, it was a merit-based oligarchy council of mages. So there we go. Sorry about all the crying. I think my E button is my cry button. And on that note, we're going to switch back to normal Obsidian. Where am I? Where's my cutie pie? There she is. A little bigger. There we go. Fine art. To find the right size obsidian. But yeah, so the Aurixia was a mageocracy, which is led by the Arcane Conclave. The Arcane Conclave is a merit-based oligarchy council of mages. So, for example, there would be a representative, a rep from each school of magic, as well as reps from independent arcane casters that aren't necessarily wizards. Reps from arcane casters. And so the idea was Rixian society is mage cast and non-mage cast. So the society is broken down between two castes, and and it's determined on the power level of basically people with arcane potential. Specifically, if you are discovered to have the potential for arcane usage in some way, you basically get taken away from whatever is your previous state in life. So if your family was just a whole bunch of normies, and you were born with, we'll say, the potential to be like a sorcerer, the state, once they discovered your potential, they would then draft you into basically the state system to be educated. And it's a drastic improvement in life. However, it does create division between the haves and the have-nots. So you basically have a noble caste of mages, and then the rest of the citizenry are non-mages. The most common form of casters are wizards, because you can learn to be a wizard, and you can't learn to be a sorcerer. Yes, that is a potential way that sorcerers can emerge, but sorcerers emerge from all kinds of ways. They also could be selectively bred as a potential. So because the world is predominantly, or because the country was predominantly wizards, a person who is born with sorceress lineage is basically highly desirable in the society, because that's somebody who has a cheat code to get easy arcane potential, and it's also somebody that can strengthen the arcane lineage down the generation. So if you're discovered to be a sorcerer, you're extra drafted by the nation, but you're also almost better than a wizard in some ways, for at least for desirability, because people will want to marry you and help ensure that they are getting the sorcerer's lineage now within their own family. most sorceress lineage happens the normal way, like you're descended from dragons or celestials or whatever. Yes, bards are considered a lesser form of magician. So a significantly powerful enough bard could find themselves on the Conclave, but kind of the way bards work, they don't really lend themselves well to administrative bureaucracy. Asked me to play CK3 and chill at his house. Now what? Oceania. In a way, yes. Nobles do try to quote-unquote keep it within the family. If you are sufficiently powerful as an arcane caster family, you're like... Okay, so now we're going to go to another rule. This is like the fate rule of arcane... what's it called? Magic Crest. Arcane potential is passed down once. Only goes to one child. So, if you are a wizard family, and you have, you're only allowed to train one of your children to become another magic practitioner. If it is discovered you have a second child who is a magic practitioner, you need to marry them off post-haste. Bards are good PR. But yeah, so you want to get rid of that other child, because having more than one mage in your family is, because it is a cutthroat, merit-based system, it creates the potential for strife that you don't want to have to deal with. It's easier for you to have your power cemented dynastically if you only pass it on once. So if you have another... and also, mages do not marry other mages. So mages do not marry other mages. And the reason for that is because everything is, it's like Littlefinger said, it's a ladder. And so you don't want to marry another mage because that is a threat to your own dynastic lineage, basically. So what happens is each mage marries a shield. They're called shields. Who is a mundane but useful person. So, for example, if you're a wizard, you would find somebody who's a shield. Like, for instance, you have two kids. One of your children is gonna be trained to be a wizard. The other one you're gonna train to be a shield, and that could be any kind of things. A shield could be an assassin. A shield could be a great warrior. A shield could be, a monk or something. But the difference is all shields are mundane. And so you will marry one of your children off to another mage to be their shield. And that way the mage always has this yin-yang relationship where the weaknesses apparent in being a purely arcane caster are compensated a bit by having a significant other who does not need to derive their power from that. And so they can assist you in ways that you would not be otherwise able to do so. So that's like how mage families work. All other kids are shields. And will get married off to other mage families to be that whoever is the mage of that family's shield. If, of course, you don't find it desirable, shields can marry other shields. It's just not useful. Like, mages put a lot of care into their children to ensure it is politically advantageous, the amount of kids they have. having too many kids can be inconvenient to your family. Because they might have just dead-end prospects of just like, oh, I've got more shields than I know what to deal with. Homicide wrap themselves in books or merely agree to build a school together. For Warlocks, for the issue of Warlocks, Warlocks are frowned on. Warlocks equal frowned upon, but still valid. So Warlocks are frowned upon, but still valid, partially because Warlocks, they cheat. Like, a Warlock isn't necessarily powerful. Their patron is powerful, and it's just how much of a sugar baby are they at that point in their lives. So Warlocks do count, just like Bards also count as arcane users for the purposes of merit-based ascension. However, Warlocks are the absolute bottom rung of arcane potential. And, like, and it's all about, as long as you are strong enough to basically be able to match yourself against the other mages around you, then it's basically a might makes right for Warlocks. Your validity is directly proportional to your power level. You don't get the same level of just like innate elevation that like a wizard or a sorcerer gets. You have to fight to earn it. You just have the advantage of literally somebody is bankrolling you in the spirit world. But the Aurixian Magocracy itself didn't really care who your patron was. Because it was all about the power itself and the perpetuation of the state. That was like the biggest concerns for the Arixian. If you prove to be a threat to the integrity of the state because of your patron, then, they would work against you. But you want to make a deal with a fiend? You want to make a deal with an angel? Who cares? All they care about is results. And I gotta add in Bards. Bards are valid, but lower tier in society. Above Warlocks, though. Oh, I guess I should physically put them above Warlocks. So I'm going to create a chart in just a second for you, showing the rungs of society. But yeah, so this gives you a basic breakdown about how, yes, there are artificers. However, artificers were not an Arixian practice. Artificers exist in the United Alliance, which I'll talk about more later. The United Alliance is the more technologically advanced coalition of nations. So Aurixia decided Magocracy was the right route to go in, and they felt like magic could replace all the things that, so like when your magic is good enough, you don't need technology. The Alliance countries determined that they could use Arcanite to create basically industrialization. So they use magic as a technological tool to basically be like an 1890s level of technology. So artificers are super duper common in the Alliance. However, they don't really exist in Aurixia. And they don't have a place in Arixian society in any meaningful way. So there's that. So, what was I going to say about this? But yeah, but the society is not as much inbreeding for the sake of inbreeding. It's all about as long as you can perpetuate useful traits. And so, like, marriages are always A, political, and B, power-based. So, like, it is the people who are at the top of society are the most powerful mages married to the most powerful shields. And that's partially how they can stay in their position of authority. over the rest of the populace. So, anybody have any questions about the initial description of Rixia's kind of mageocracy itself? And then I can move on to the chart of, I guess, mages by tier. But yeah, so one of the big things they did was they used Arcanite as a magical, basically magical Viagra. So they use Arcanite as a means of enhancing their inherent magical capability via making, all kinds of magical items, traditional D&D magical items kind of stuff, as well as using raw Arcanite as like a kind of a magical fuel to aid in their casting prowess. They did not use it like coal, they used it like steroids. Because you could also get high off of Arcanite because it is literally magic in mineral form. And so you can get high and temporarily do magical powers and be driven insane. And mutate. And we got Theo over here with the big Death Knight hug. You're goddamn right. So get your hugging utensils ready, everyone, because I'm coming in deep. And a 3, and a 2, and a burr. There you go. A big Death Knight hug from me to you. I hope you enjoyed it. Does Rixia acknowledge divine or primal magic, or is such practices outlawed? No, they are actually not outlawed. It's just, as I discussed in my previous stream, primal magic comes from the elemental primes and from the fae. The power you channel is like a druid, for instance, comes from those power sources. And those are inherently non-civilized is a way of describing it. So because of that, like druidry existed and exists in Aurixia, but it is not any actual social standing behind it. They don't have any actual political power. And it's frowned upon, but it is not outlawed. And then divine magic exists. They do acknowledge gods, like particularly the god of magic in Arcixia is the most powerful deity that they worship. And it's using like magic as a ladder, basically. He is viewed, or they are viewed, as a god that uses magic for control over the world itself. And so there is an acknowledgement of the divine, of like the churches affiliated with the Arixian gods, but they are much more of what I would say is like a Christmas Catholic than like where religion is like an incredibly powerful force, like a theocracy or anything. And so like Arixians can, have their gods that they worship, that they follow, but it's very much like, oh yeah, this is a god that this god helps, give me some power, but that's kind of the most I deal with my god on a daily basis. They don't have the same kind of paladin tradition that you would see elsewhere, basically. Yeah, Arcane Domain Clerics would be the mainstay of the clerical region, but they are separate from the state and the Conclave. They're much more of like, yes, they are a part of society, but they're not a part of society that like matters, because at the end of the day, like, you get your clerical powers from a god. You don't get them from, mastery of yourself or mastery of like learning. So it doesn't have the same kind of like sway in society. So we're gonna jump over from here to, oh, I'm on the wrong layer. New page. All right. Rixian Society. So we've got wizards slash sorcerers. Bing. Hey Ryan, thank you for the lurk, and hello Soulfang, welcome, welcome. Then below wizards and sorcerers, you have labards. And then below the labards, you have warlocks. And then below all of that, you have mundane, or I'll call them non-arcane, populace. And I come to assume the first word I hear is society. We live in a magical society. Hello, Yellow Jacket. Welcome, welcome. I'll give you a shout out for a moment. Yellow Jacket, Kara, Gucci. There you go. Be sure to check him out. He's a great fighting game VTuber, a boxing boy. We have nerds and then the non-nerds. That is correct. And then, so now it's time for arrows. So we're here. So we got color, and you go black. Goes into box to non-arcane. And then here you get stuff like religion, like druids, and non-magical people. There you go. There. Mage on mage restriction is interesting. It's legally enforced to prevent the pooling of sorcerer bloodlines, or could the children of two arcanists suffer magical affliction, curses? While wait for food. Well, I appreciate the chill, Kara. I'm always happy to have you here. So first of all, to Soul Thing's question. Mages don't marry other mages. Wouldn't that just make a stronger mage family? Yes, that would. However, there's a caveat. It's one of those things where, it's not just about being a powerful mage. It is also about being a stable power base. And having mages marrying other mages is problematic because at the end of the day, two people from the same family are not going to wind up in the next rung of power, basically. So you have inherent society views mage on mage as a threat to any given mage's power, as they are always seeking to increase their own power level and their own family's power level. And I saw druids aren't arcane populace, and I choked. So that's one thing. And secondly, it's about just the way that the society is structured. It is more important to them to ensure that one mage in each family, or in each direct family generation, is given the most power and potential over the rest of the family. So, and that can be enhanced by, if you have two kids, one of which is a mage, one of which is a shield, you can marry the shield to a sorcerer, and now that there is sorceress lineage potentially as a branch offshoot of the family. Which has now been brought into the mix. That's a way to think about it. So, yes, it is not necessarily the most efficient way that they can structure for stronger mage potential. However, they view it as the best way to advocate their particular societal views on individual prowess and individual arcane potential. Is mage-on-mage restriction legally enforced? Yes, it is legally enforced. It is not only is it societally enforced, like, it's just they've been doing this for centuries, that this is how the society works, but it is also forbidden. Because they also don't want to see people have too many mages in their family and also prove to be problematic in that as a disruption to the flow of society. So it's literally like it's a double-edged sword because they don't want it because
truth is
game's rigged from the start.
Game was rigged from the start.
They don't want more mages in the same family for the same, like, you know, direct generation because they don't want to separate the power of an individual person, but they don't also want to consolidate the family in a grouping like that because that could be a threat to the society as a whole. House heirs falling in love in secret. Oh yeah, 100%. There is always Romeo and Juliet situations. Society was rigged from the start. Yeah, there are Romeo and Juliet situations. It's of course frowned upon. And if they want to escape high society, like, you know, they could always potentially flee to another world. I mean, not another world, another country. But, you know, it's just like, you know, if somebody immigrates to another country, you know, from their homeland and they can't bring anything with them. It's the, you know, you're a great mage, but now you're a great mage without any background support. Because your family will, you know, if you do those rules, their family's going to ostracize you. And you're not going to get those kind of access because the Arcane Conclave cannot allow continued support of those people. Are there owl folk? Yeah, sure. Basically, there's any race. Like, it's not a big deal. In the world itself, there's any race. So, and the whole Aurixian thing, this is like independent of race stuff. This is just, the society cares more about your abilities than they do about, like, racial background. Could a shield be trained to be a wizard? Yes, physically they could be trained. However, societally it's stigmatized. It's important that they do not have magical potential of their own. In their, well, magical capability, I'll say, more than potential. Like, being trained as an arcane initiate is not good for your shield. Because, you know, suddenly they've got a stepping stone in an area that they're not supposed to be involved in. Like, Eldritch Knights are... well, it's... Okay. So, no, it's not just an issue for sorceress bloodlines. It's also, if you're a wizard, say you're a wizard family, and you have multiple kids, you're also not allowed to have all of your kids become wizards. Yeah, wizard, that probably has happened in the past, of families training them in secret. But that would be one of those things where all of society would turn against them once it's discovered. And so, but yeah, like, you're only supposed to pass on those opportunities. Like, say you've got your spell book. Like, you're the head of a mage family. You've got your spell book with all of the spells you've accumulated over your career. You only want to give that to the child that you have designated as your mage heir. So that is only how it is supposed to get passed on. Having multiple wizards is not allowed. All other kids would have to become shield. And there are some families which don't have the same kind of arcane power to become, like, you know, a mage. I mean, to become a wizard, for instance. And they can train their kids to be things like Eldritch Knights and stuff. Yes, sorceress families, while being the most desirable, also have the most limitations put on them. So we're going to draw another arrow here. I would say this is kind of below Bard, but above Warlock. And that is... Arcane subclasses. of non-arcane classes. I'll shrink that down. There you go. Obsidia, hello, Vanguard Christy. Welcome, welcome. Happy to have you. So, yes. So, for an example, somebody who's below a bard but above a warlock would be the arcane subclasses of otherwise non-arcane classes. So, like, for instance, Eldritch Knights. Example, Eldritch Knights, arcane tricksters. So those are examples of people that could exist. Like, you can achieve this. It's usually for families that are less powerful. Produce monks who can't and so improve their bodies. Yes, monks do exist. That would fall under the non-magical people pool of people. Also for like, that would be also a good shield. Like, if your family, for instance, has a sorceress lineage, and so we'll say you're innately susceptible to like the focusing of ki as a magical energy, for instance, your child as a shield could be trained to be a monk and be able to utilize that ki energy, but it's not considered arcane energy for the purposes of societal restrictions. Alright, so for Ryan, he did do the PogChamp redeem, so he does this every stream, so I have to do this. Oh, Ryan, thank you so much for doing this redeem. I know how much it means to you to have me do this every stream. So I just want you to know, Ryan, that I'm just saying what we've all been thinking. And that's that you, Ryan, yes, you are my little PogChamp. And there's nothing that can change that. There you go, Ryan. So there you go. That is the society that they had in place. These people who are the arcane subclasses, they still follow under the mage descendant rule. So you cannot be trained to do these if you are from a mage family. But in the counterpoint is, it's a lot cheaper and logistically easier to train somebody to be an Eldritch Knight or an Arcane Trickster than it is to be a wizard, for instance. So there are families that have made their own, their own dynastic lineages around being Eldritch Knights and Arcane Tricksters and stuff. They understand the unique role that they can play in society and how it's, it's free real estate, basically, for power fields. You may not be as strong as a wizard is societally and as potential down the line, but you fulfill a niche role which is probably not going to be addressed otherwise. And it's a lot cheaper and easier to attain. So that's a part of how that fits into the overall hierarchy. And so, and then I gotta just include no artificers. That's probably artificer. With great potential for strife. Merchants and generals lording over the non-magical serfs and factory workers. Yes. And in the era before the campaign started, Rixia was largely able to maintain its stability because the haves and the have-nots, the haves were so powerful that the have-nots could not hold meaningful resistance against them. Because the level of just mages in the society is just so much above what most people can achieve. Oh, hello, Tamatobi. A psychic kitty raid, a psychic kitty raid. Welcome, Tamatobi, from a psychic kitty raid. Happy to have you, Tama. How was Scarlet Nexus? I have that on my wish list on Steam. But I'm happy. Thank you for the raid so much. Everybody's favorite kitty. Be sure to check her out. She's awesome. She's everybody's favorite channel kitty. She also created Small Cydia and Small Night Cydia. So we're just talking about Dungeons and Dragons right now, and world building. So, but yeah, so power was A, because the mages and halves in the society were so powerful, and it was also because, despite how separated this cast may be, while sharp societal division, high degree of individual, that's not how you spell individual, individual autonomy and decentralization. So, I can't handle the MC. She's got too strong of a sister complex and it's driving me insane. Oof. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. So, yeah, the mage's primary concern is more power, or staying in power, and staying powerful. So that's like the primary things is the society mostly, they let you do your own thing on an individual level. You pay your taxes, you lose the mage members of your family as they randomly occur, and aside from that, you're largely allowed to live your own life. The mages don't really care, what gods you worship, what you do, as long as you abide by the societal rules and you keep the magocracy in power, you're kind of allowed to do whatever you want on a regional level. So, like, there was regional strife even when Arixia's Arcane Conclave was in power, but as long as it didn't spread or threaten the integrity of the state itself, the Arixian government didn't really care. Hello, Michael. Welcome, welcome. But an outlaw mage, a non-noble who has studied contraband magic tomes or is from an illegitimate source with bloodline, be accepted into the conclave if they prove useful or repentant enough. Can merit trump law? Yes. I know, it's totally fine, Michael. I appreciate you coming. It doesn't matter if you're late. I'm happy you're here. Yes, Thoth. Being, hello, Tyler. Welcome, welcome. That's a cute little crow you got there. I think that's a crow. I'm pretty sure that's a crow. Merit exceeds bloodline in society. Much like in real life, this society is based on a meritocracy where being a nobility makes things easier, but if innately better, then just as good. So, for instance, like, being a part of a noble bloodline gives you easy access to power, but it is not a guarantee of success. You could be from a mage bloodline and still just not be good enough to be able to ascend higher in society than where you are. And that's, that's fine. And so, however, if you are identified, for instance, as somebody who has magical capability, such as you're a sorcerer and you get discovered, you get tied to the state where basically you become the origin of your own mage family. Exclusively do the wizardry families control new wizards to train, or is it available for anyone to study? Conclave can control it, or they can't. Gotcha. Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, this being a nobility makes it easy for you to get those levels of power and the access to things. Because, like, most people aren't going to become a wizard independently of being in a mage family. And so, like, for instance, if you and your sister both learned how to be mages out on the street, you learned somehow to be a wizard out on the street, and you get discovered, you would then get basically separated, and there would be a determination about which one of you would have what it takes to become an integral part of society. Yeah, you found a lost book. So if your family, because everything is about family basis here, like two people from the same orphanage who are discovered to be sorcerers, for instance, that doesn't matter. It's only if they're from the same family. Because they're just trying to cut down on potential, like, mages can be friends with each other. It's just not terribly likely, because society innately puts mages against other mages to always be viewing on aspiring higher up the ladder. So, but if you are an individually capable mage in your own right, who then is discovered by society, then the state will take you in and begin basically giving you, like, baseline training to be essentially the lowest rung of being a higher runged person. Like, being an orphan mage is like, yeah, you don't have anything to support you on a societal level aside from your position and the fact that you are a mage. A lot of shivs will be in your back here for D&D before D&D tonight. Welcome, welcome, Aradia. Happy to have you. I gotta shout you out. The wonderful DM of our very own lovely little elf princess's Curse of Strahd campaign that she streams. Be sure to check out Aradia. She also streams games like Doom and Dishonored in her own right. So, and then for Vanguard Christie, all you foxos, doggos, and wolfos out there in chat, please feel free to join in with me for an woo. Here we go. Woo! 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 There you go. A little woo from me to you. The wrong button. I didn't mean to click you. I'm trying to click my small wolf. There we go. Sorry guys, I'm just closing some windows. There we go. Small wolf has been activated. Okay. Hey Shirahime! Oh my god, we're all wooing up here. We got the best little princess doggo around. Shirahime. You guys should definitely go check out Princess. First of all, her model was made by our very own Zephorio, a wonderful artist who's done several Cydias in his day. She's also one of the most positive people you'll ever meet. Like, she advocates so much positivity in her community and having people love themselves and projecting that love elsewhere. She's amazing to talk to, and she is such a positive force around. Be sure to check her out. Lore edition, but could the Arcane Clerics work adjacent to the Conclave as the magical police enforcing the hierarchies? That is actually a pretty good idea. I will add that to my notes. I like that idea. Alright, so where's my section on Aurixia? Okay, so Aurixia and Arcane Domain Clerics act as enforcers of the Arcane Conclaves, mage, social balance, and police. I like it. I think that's a good idea, Thoth. I appreciate that. I'm going to add that to my notes as something to think about more and decide if I want that in the final decision on it. But I really appreciate it. This is the Kuwik Police. The Kwewik Police. But yeah, so Aradia, I'm talking about a mageocracy right now and how their society is structured. So this is basically the breakdown of the society. Anybody have any comments or questions about what I have laid out so far for the pyramid that Arixian society is structured around? I like the idea of the church acting as enforcers, separate and apart from the Arcane Conclave system, but also integral to the survival of the state. Magic makes right. You're goddamn right it does. Love Magic User Societies. I'm catching up on your notes at the moment. Yeah, and if you want more notes, I've got the VOD to the previous stream. You can go check out my YouTube. And it's 3 hours of me talking about the gods, planes, and the Fae and stuff, and how that works in the world. So, yeah, I like the idea of the gods. I do have a hard time reconciling what I want to do with like druids and primal type casters for Arcane itself. Like, because when you think about it, they're probably going to get to a certain level of power. That will make the society have to do something about them. You can't have a druid running around casting 9th level spells and not be a potential threat to the mageocracy in existence. But like, at the same time, my setting in a lot of ways, like, druid craft as kind of a thing is not super common anywhere in anywhere in the continent, really, because Druidcraft comes from the Fae and the Elementals, and as the world has become more, has become more advanced technologically, like, those things have become less prominent. Urban Druids do exist to a high degree, especially in the United Alliance, but, like, normal, like, hippies out in the woods Druids isn't super common anymore. As a shield, does your rank in society depend on your spouses, or is it always lumped in with the non-magical folk? No, it is, it's 2 parts. So, I can do a caveat over here. Shield power. So your shield power, oh, that's not power, power. Druids, Rangers have their power base in the wilderness. Society is very civilized. The thing is, Aurixia is much more of the technology level of what you would expect a normal high fantasy D&D setting to be. The United Alliance's territories are magic tech. That's 1890s, like, London, is the way that what's it called? The United Alliance is. So, shield power comes from 2 areas. One is your family. And I'll shrink that more. And then 2, mage spouse. There we go. So that is where you derive your power from as a shield. So, boom. There you go. Cleric would either belong to the state's Arcane Church or rival faiths, or Arcane Church has holdings in. Yep, that is a potential idea. I could see that. So, but yeah, this is for the shield thing. Like, if you are a shield coming from a prominent mage family, and you marry, another mage, your family's connection does still have merit and does still have sway and power. You just also gain power from your mage spouse's side of the family now as well. Why Druid Rangers are less powerful than Rixia and old pack stay in the Conclave. Yeah, that's an idea. Lore reasons, yeah. But yeah, so that's one of the ideas to go around. So being a shield, like, while you may not be explicitly, you know, powerful like a wizard or sorcerer is, you are inherently trained to be an incredibly capable person. And so, like, a 20th level fighter married to a 20th level wizard, yeah, society may not care about the fighter as much as the wizard. That fighter is still pretty powerful. And it's not somebody to fuck with in their own right, especially when they come from a family of 20th level wizards. So, yeah. I do kind of like the idea of perhaps maybe some kind of regulation or tabs are kept on them or something, but for primal casters, it's just so hard. An entire society of fighter wizard ships. Yep, basically. Or rogue wizard ships, or monk wizard ships. Barbarian wizard ships, hell yeah. Oh my gosh, I got some raiders. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Pyro Saber EXP. Thank you for the raid. How are you doing? Pyro Saber. Pyro Saber EX. Oh, I misspelled your name. I'm sorry. Raid Pyro Saber EX. There we go. Oh, how was Dungeons and Dragons? And thank you for the follow, Mike Twing. Welcome to the stream. I hope you enjoyed your Astolfo. And hello, Pyro Saber EXP. How are you? I really appreciate the raid. For those of you who don't know, my name is Obsidia. I am a Death Knight. What is that floating behind my head? It is a bone halo made of the spines of my enemies and those I hug a little too tightly. Welcome, welcome. Currently we are streaming me talking about world building for my homebrew setting. And yes, we are talking about wizards. Just doing D&D prep, and as always, we get derailed, as is tradition. Well, I'm glad you got it finished. Yeah, I'm talking about mageocracies right now, and the nation of Aurixia, which was a mageocracy up until it wasn't. So I'm doing all this discussion about how the society was structured before it no longer was structured this way. Being loaded another world building stream? Well, thank you. I hope you enjoy your noms, Pyro. Thank you for the raid. Welcome all of your little Pyro raiders. Happy to have you. Welcome. Sorry, I gotta read your name because it's red. Eber Sneak. Happy to have you. I'm happy to hear about anything from your world that you were building. So currently this stream we're talking about a steampunk kind of D&D setting. So this is the rough breakdown of society. I gotta think more about what to do about primal casters within it. Because the funny thing is, I'm doing all this work about how the society was structured when the actual campaign, this doesn't exist anymore. Yes, I am in fact a dungeon master. I've been my RPG lineage. I have been playing in tabletop role-playing games and DMing campaigns for over 20 years now. And I currently DM 2 campaigns off-screen, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday. The Thursday one being actually playtesting some of the classes and mechanics that I'm talking about here for the planned day of when I eventually am able to stream this campaign that I'm writing. And then I play in a streamed D&D game on Saturday nights over on Alistair Forgall's channel, a VTuber D&D group. So I'm also planning for a steampunk location. Well, hell yeah. more than a few demons. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, Oath of Watchers Paladins could be useful for working with the Arcane domain church. Hello, Miyumi. Welcome, welcome. All right, so does anybody else have any questions about what I just talked about with the way the society is structured? If not, we will move on to Arcanite and how it proved to be problematic for Arixia. Actually, I'll actually take a question from chat. Would you prefer me to talk about I guess I could do a brief caveat about Arcanite, and then I could talk about United Alliance. Oh, you're new to D&D? Well, that's awesome. D&D is great. I started in 2nd edition D&D when I was 13 years old. So I have had a lot of fun with role-playing games over the entirety of my life. The original Obsidian name was an NPC in a Dark Heresy Warhammer 40k campaign I ran many years ago. I ran that single campaign for about a decade. But yeah, so that's the brief note. I'm going to talk about how Rixia dealt with Arcanite. Then I'm going to go over to talking about the United Alliance. So here is our note about Arixia. And if you have any questions about the terminology I use, please let me know. I can explain it into more detail. So, new. Aristocratic meritocracy with societally enforced genealogy control and a church based on the reverence and control of magic. Yes, that is basically it, Goth. Alright. So, Arixia and Arcanite. Hello, Queen Space. Wicka wicka woo. Queen Space support for you. Welcome, welcome. Happy to have you, Queen. For those of you who don't know, Queen is an adorable, Space is an adorable German VTuber. She's a meme lord. She's a pro gamer. She speedruns Mario stuff. And she is absolutely adorable. Be sure to check her out. She's the official, unofficial Eurovision VTuber. Is your name Earl Grey because you're a hottie? I love it, Space. I love it. Alright, so Rixia and Arcanite. As previously discussed, Arcanite is magic ore / fuel / like magical focus. There's a lot of people who theorize where Arcanite comes from, but all that is really the only thing known about it is it is a mineral that grows in the ground, and it is basically the raw stuff of magic, but in mineral form. And so, in eras past, it was commonly used to make, want to voice clip it? Oh my gosh, Space. In ages past, it was used to make most of what you'd expect normal D&D magic items to be. And so, the United Alliance figured out that they could use Arcanite as a fuel source to basically create the Industrial Revolution, but using Arcanite instead of like coal. Like, if you ever played Valkyria Chronicles, Ragnite, it's basically a similar concept. Alright, so that's Arcanite. Important thing to note is how much is 1 ounce of Arcanite? I don't know. I don't know, man. An amount of money. That'll be a future Obsidia problem. I don't know how much it's supposed to cost. Arcanite comes in 2 primary forms. 2 forms equals raw, which is unrefined, and unpurified, which is also radioactive. Magically radioactive. Unrefined and unpurified Arcanite was what was used traditional. And this is traditional Arcanite. Traditional Arcanite for magic. So traditional raw Arcanite was used to make magic items and is also, in the case of Aurixia, they use Arcanite as basically magical steroids to enhance their inherent magical abilities. Purified and refined Arcanite I'll call it non-toxic. Non-toxic. Don't eat the magic rocks. You can get high as shit on them, though. If you, like, snort Arcanite dust, you could get really high and get temporary magic powers, but you go insane. And your body can start to mutate. So it's non-toxic. I stole that from Warhammer. That's basically Warpstone. And how it affects, like, the Skaven. It's non-toxic and used for industrial purposes, akin to coal. So part of that is the UA uses, I'll call this modern Arcanite. The UA uses it to, like, do things like run trains, make gunpowder, to be the basis of modern technologies and like modern arcane devices. This is the safer way to deal with Arcanite, and it's also the more efficient way to deal with Arcanite, because you can take the unrefined and make it into a considerably larger amount of material. So that's just like the brief note about what you need to know about Arcanite itself. Aurixia has enormous supplies of Arcanite in the country. Or enormous veins, I'll say. Veins of Arcanite in the country. What color is Arcanite? It is blue. I'll add that up here. Arcanite is blue. It is like a luminescent blue. Luminescent blue. It's very akin to Ragnite because I like neon blue things. I'd say the raw stuff would be banned outright. Mines for probably owned, controlled by the state. Legal trade for it would be expensive with raw Arcanite. Probably something like 50 gold per gram. Ah, good. I appreciate that insight, Autumn. Yeah, like, it's mined on an industrial scale. In the UA, there's, like, a lot of procedures around mining it. In Aurixia, there's a lot less safety protocols around mining Arcanite. So a lot of people die from Arcanite exposure, or get mutated or driven insane by it. Which can be the path to power. There is a percentage chance that you get a good mutation out of Arcanite, and you develop sorceress powers innately. However, that's very unlikely. So because Arixia has enormous veins of Arcanite in the country, it means that they use Arcanite more commonly than they would otherwise. And they also export Arcanite. So in addition to using it significantly domestically, they have a history of exporting it to the broader markets of, like, the United Alliance. It'll make anybody turn into a mutant. If you're a human, elf, dragon, whatever. Well, not technically a dragon for very specific reasons, but like, most humanoid races will get and non-humanoid, like animals and stuff, can become mutated from Arcanite exposure, and become something different. Don't eat Arcanite and drive. Pokemon have rights too. So yeah, Aurixia used to, one of their, literally the primary export of Aurixia was Arcanite to the UA. Rixia's Arcanite is a potent resource, but the Conclave is keeping its populace stuck in the Dark Age. Revelation scripts import technology to attack the Conclave and show the progress the Arixians are missing out on. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Goth, because the modern campaign takes place after Aurixia got overthrown by the Alliance. Which I'll explain later. So has enormous veins, and they export it. So this gives you insight into how Aurixia uses its Arcanite and what they were doing with it. And like the fact that they were primarily exporting Arcanite to the industrialized nations to be then subsequently purified and refined for their own industrial purposes. There has historically been tension between the United Alliance member states. We never even finished writing the lore for it. There has historically been tension between the UA member states and Aurixia in centuries past because of just how Aurixia exists as a society. However, the UA didn't really do anything about it because up until about I haven't decided if it's 50 or 100 years ago, the UA didn't exist. It was a different nations, and they basically got involved in a catastrophic war with each other, akin to like a World War I or II, which was so devastating that a lot of the warmongering states that were a part of that region ceased to be, and reconstruction efforts occurred. Modernization and reconstruction efforts occurred within the countries to rebuild from the devastation, and that formed the basis, 100 years ago, formed the basis for them becoming closer and more culturally tied to each other and creating the UA. So I haven't decided if it's 10 or it's probably going to be 10 years before, I'll say 15 years before the current game timeline. The United Alliance intervened in Aurixia, overthrew the Aurexian government, and it after 5 years of war, and now Aurixia is kind of the shattered state that is the problematic basis for where the campaign takes place. Because the United Alliance did not do a very good job in nation building after they overthrew the Aurexian regime. Hello, Insanistar. Welcome, welcome. So does anybody have any questions about Aurixia and Arcanite before we move on to talking about the United Alliance? Alright, am I on the right layer? I'm not. Roll over. New. Yep. The United Alliance. An important thing to know about the United Alliance is, one, it is an empty shell for players to fill in. That is probably the most important thing for you all to understand going into this now, is the campaign is structured in such a way that I want it to be very focused around the United States of Alliance. Yep. It's closer to the European Union than the United States, but so the idea behind the United Alliance is lots of things in the world are kept undefined, where I don't go into detail about like particular persons or places in a lot of ways, because I want to leave it open for players to create whatever they want out of it. Like, you know, you want to be a character that's from the United Alliance, and you want to be from a nation of, I don't know, like, cyborg druids. We'll say cyborg druids. And it's like, okay, one of the United Alliance member states, they're cyborg druids. So, like, I have the United Alliance more as it's a concept. It's a shell that can be filled in with more detail as the players create it and as it is necessary for the plot. I don't need to go into full detail about all of the inner workings of the Alliance at start, because it's only as relevant as the players will end up making it. So that's like the first thing you need to know about it. So the 2, it is advanced, it's tech advanced and modernized. And modernized 1890s Europe equivalent. That's not how you spell modernized. Modernized. So it's an amalgamation of nations that the players add to them when they make their decision. Yes. Like, I have ideas about, like, things I want the UA to embody, but as a whole, its biggest commonality is that it is advanced and modernized. Beyond that, it's largely up to the players, if they want it to be relevant or not. Because at the end of the day, this campaign is set in Aurixia, where the players are people who are operating there most likely as working for one of the international organizations within the country, or as mercenaries, a part of the free companies that operate in the country as a part of the mega corporation that is in charge of reconstruction of Arcania. So it's like the UA, they exist kind of outside of the parameters of the campaign, but the effects they have on the campaign in a lot of ways are based on what the players want the UA to be involved with. Like, I have ideas of example countries within the UA, but as a whole, it's mostly whatever the players want it to be. And so, UA is the player... It's not necessarily the player faction, because you can be Aurixian if you would like. Like, you can be one of the people from Aurixia for a whole bunch of reasons why you're doing what you're doing as an Aurexian. But at the end of the day, you're probably working for the UA in some way. At least, not necessarily strictly the UA, but the organizations that the UA has operating within Aurixia, which is another talk about faction. So, like, for instance, I always, like, one of my game things, I'm going to do an aside here. So as an aside, something I do in my campaigns, because I feel like it gives the players something to interact with and something that binds them to the world around them, is I create NPC Companions to the party. So there's always NPC Companions. I usually, should probably do this. Usually 4 they recruit over campaign. And so, like, for instance, in my Eberron campaign, over the course of the campaign, they've recruited 4 NPC Companions who are fully fleshed out characters that I've made that have joined the party for whatever reason. Mechanically, each of them is a statted character, and the party can take 1 on each adventure, basically. So they can always bring one of their companions with them on their adventure. They basically give them, like, an additional skill or fill in a gap in the party or something that they may want for when they're trying to accomplish X, Y, or Z task. So one of the companions that I've already statted up for this campaign is an Aurexian. They're an Aurexian Eldritch Knight with a really sad backstory. So yeah, like, and their relationship with Aurixia as a whole is very unique. But, like, a party can be Aurexian. And, like, I actually do have factions in Aurixia itself that actually don't like the UA. There, 2 of the example factions that operate within Aurixia are actually anti-UA. One of them wants to see the UA out of the country, basically wants to see all of the UA's organizations out of the country, and for Aurixia to create a new and more egalitarian state. And then the other faction is the remnants of the Arcane Conclave who want to come back into power. And they both don't like the UA. But I kind of work under the assumption that unless the players really want to, they're probably going to be people who are working within the larger international community. Wouldn't there be a small cult of Oath of the Watchers floating around former Aurixia? Probably. In former, like, there's a lot of people operating in former Rixia currently in the timeline. One of the example organizations are the Justicari, which, when I do my section talking about the factions of Aurixia, the Justicari were a United Alliance military organization, kind of an extra-national military organization, kind of like the Knights Templar, the Knights Hospitaller, where they originally were a group of adventurers centuries ago, who basically determined the best way for them to adventure was organizing together and creating a greater military hierarchy, which has expanded over the decades to become the Justicari. Oh, thank you for the host, NY Snark Exchange. I really appreciate it. One second, I gotta shout out the NY Snark Exchange, a wonderful group of streamers. Be sure to check them out. Are they then going to become bankers? No. But so the Justicari were basically adventurers who thought they could do the most good if they did it on an industrial scale. Who would play D&D in this day and age? Thank you for the 12-month resub, Snark Exchange. For those of you who don't know, I actually run a D&D game for several members of the NY Snark Exchange. On Tuesdays, that's my Eberron game. But, so, yeah, because of that, they have grown to be this incredibly powerful force of quote-unquote good, and peacekeepers. And they were a part of the overall invasion of Aurixia under the UA, and a portion of them has decided to stay behind as a part of Reconstruction to hunt down people who are members of the Arcane Conclave, as well as ulterior motives. And like the Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout 4, they have a giant floating airship fortress that they fly around the country in. And then they basically deploy via magical helicopters down to the ground. They might be akin to the US military, who knows? I don't know, I just write the thing. But yeah, so the Justicari do exist, hunting down quote-unquote bad guys. And they're an external UA faction. Would you accept players looking to restore the Conclave? Yeah, if that is the campaign that the party wants to play, then fuck it. That's the campaign we'll play. Like, I have ideas for the campaign of like different story beats and stuff. Do they have power armor too? They can. I have mechanics for power armor, but they do have like highly advanced weapons and armor. Like, because part of where I use a lot of the technology from is the Iron Kingdom setting, which is what I'm playtesting. And one of the things in Iron Kingdoms is literally like a greatsword / energy cannon. And that's like standard equipment. They can also call in an airstrike by having the, what did I call it? I think I called it the Righteous Path is the name of their airship. And basically having it just unload energy cannons into the area of people if they become overwhelmed. So there aren't many Justicari in Aurixia. However, they are very organized, very coordinated, and very advanced. So like, it is very hard to take down a squad of Justicari. But yeah. But that was more talking about Aurixia. The United Alliance. So, oh my goodness, someone else in Iron Kingdoms? Hello, Troll King Nash. Welcome, welcome. Yes, I actually used to play War Machine as a teenager. Signar for life, baby. I used to play the Iron Kingdoms 3.5 rules. Back in the day, I ran the Witchfire trilogy. I kickstarted the 5th edition Iron Kingdoms rules, and that's what I'm using for a lot of the stuff in this game. I'm a big fan of Iron Kingdoms. So the United Alliance, 15 years ago... Oh, I gotta do... they are a post-reconstruction... I gotta move this. So put that leg down here. They're post, we'll say World War I, II, reconstruction, NATO/EU is basically the way to, I figured with the Troll King name, you were probably a Hordes person. Scorn? Makeda, mommy. So they're like, after the nations that were the most militant and most warmongering amongst them were broken apart in what was whatever the big war. Now the United Alliance was formed in those post years, and while the countries all have their own individual cultures and stuff, there are cultural commonalities amongst them. And they all kind of agree on the overall course of action on a diplomatic sense when dealing with Aurixia. They are also, what was I going to say? Gosh, I'm totally blanking on what I was going to say after this. Oh, they also have a United Divine equals primary religion. This was something I talked about a lot in my previous stream, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about it, but the aspects of the gods, that are worshipped within the United Alliance is called the United Divine, and that's their interpretations of what the different gods are, and that's kind of been agreed on amongst all the member states, and that is the one version that they are trying to spread to Aurixia, to convert the Aurexian populace to what they believe to be the one true version of the gods. They are wealthy and powerful, and I'm going to say wealth/power is more important than magic or tech or whatever. So they're an example of what it is in like the modern world, where like while Arcixia was a magocracy, the UA is very much like, oh, you're just a normal person who's really good at corporate management. Yeah, you can be more powerful in society than the most powerful mage around. It's all about the influence you have more than your individual capability. Generally, being an individually capable person will mean that you have a lot of influence and power, but you could just be the world's best bureaucrat in the world, and you could be in charge of a company that makes you more powerful than, you know, the fucking general of a military. They are very capitalist. They are very capitalist. I'll just put that. Capitalism. And for those of you who know anything about me for making D&D, capitalism equals evil. So mega corporations are in fact evil as a whole. And one of the themes of the campaign in Aurixia is the greed of one of the megacorps that is operating within Aurixia. So 15 years ago, UA invaded Aurixia. War was bloody, but UA won. one after 5 years. Already gonna be like, oh shit, me and the boys about to kill capitalism again. Yeah, and that's what I said, Troll King. Like, if you're a really powerful mage, you're very likely also a very wealthy person and very powerful in society. However, it's not guaranteed. Somebody who's in charge of Microsoft is probably more powerful than, like, a spec ops soldier in America, like, in societal poll. So, like, you could be individually very strong, but you may not have the same level of societal pull because somebody may just have enough money to get enough powerful people to do what they want. Aw shit, here we go, about to kill capitalism again. I haven't figured out a specific reason why. So yeah, I haven't figured out a specific reason why the UA went to war with Arixia yet, but they did. They did, because the whole campaign is premised on it. And they overthrew the Arcane Conclave and set up a more equal council called the High Conclave. So the High Conclave is the current governing body of Aurixia, but it is a puppet regime. It is a corrupt puppet regime. And so there you go. That's like the real basic notes. I've got some further notes about the UA, about the war itself, between the UA and Aurixia. Yeah, that's a possibility. Aurixia could have gotten too big for its britches and basically caused a conflict with one of the member states, and they activated their article, I think it's like Article 5 of the NATO Constitution, where it's the mutual defense clause. And so Aurixia decided to take this chance to intervene en masse against, the UA took this chance to intervene en masse against Aurixia. So this is your brief notes about the UA itself. And this is one of the ideas of, like, if you want to play an Artificer, for instance, you're probably from the UA. If you want to play a Warforged, you're from the UA. Because Warforged in my setting are cyborgs. It's literally people who have basically gotten Arcanite-powered cybernetics installed in their body, replacing the original bits. They have a bit of an Arcanite core that powers things. Oh my god, Roxy! Hello! You are all so cute! Be sure to check out Roxy, my favorite little cyber yokai. She's adorable, she's sweet. She's just the cutest little friend you could ever hope for. She is just a little fluffy baby. She just recently started streaming again with her new model. Be sure to check her out. She's playing Genshin Impact and stuff. But yeah, so that's some of the notes about the UA. Does anybody have any questions about what I briefly talked about for overarching structure of the UA and its role vis-a-vis the setting itself? Any questions about that? Oh, it's okay, Roxy. I'm just happy you're here. I'm just talking about D&D stuff. My little kuhai, or is it kohai? I don't know how to say that. Having a purple-haired kohai, pretty pog, not gonna lie. Because if not, we are gonna move on. We're gonna move on to the war. What is it good for? War, what is it good for? Aw, thank you, Roxy. I love seeing those little bongo cidias. Alright, so Rixia and UA went to war. That's your first note. you so much for the shout out. You're so sweet. I can't. Oh my gosh, Ruxy, I love you so much. You're such a sweetheart. You're so cute. Thank you for giving me so much love and support. You're just such a good bean. So they went to war, and initially, Aurixia did better than expected. So initially, Arcana did better than expected. Their mages were basically super strong. Were really strong. And casualties started to pile up. To pile up for the UA, which was problematic and politically untenable. So, your punishment is joining latest to play D&D with us. What a punishment. What a punishment. I will take my punishment from Obsidian with grace. Ooh. You know that I would only punish you for your own good, Ruxy, because I just want to reward you. Because you're so good. But yeah, so the initial war, basically, Arixia did better than was expected from the initial UA invasion. So, like, the UA is more advanced. They've got gunpowder. They've got, basically, fighting robots and stuff. They have power armor called Aegis suits. And they have all that in their favor. The problem is, the UA is designed for being a really big military across a lot of nations, where they don't have the individual pound-for-pound punch necessarily concentrated in one particular conflict. So the initial invasion, the UA basically underestimated what they thought they would need to defeat the Arixian military. If you got it, you got it. If you don't, you don't. So they didn't bring in basically the biggest guns they had, and so Rixia was able to actually kind of turn it into a war of attrition, which was not popular at home for the UA. So UA needed a solution to the mages. So they figured the thing that was most problematic about the Arixian resistance was the mages. The battle mages they were using were so strong and so powerful that they were basically making the Arixian military significantly more effective than it should have been. So the UA High Command determined that they needed a solution, and so they figured out the best way was to sever the head of the snake of the mages. And so to do this, they created a new agency. A new UA agency. So they created a new agency, I'm going to shrink that a bit, to act as a dedicated cross-proficiency, cross-skill set force for the sole purpose of mage hunting in Aurixia. And they named this agency the Misericorde. For those of you who don't know, the Misericorde in real life was a knife that French knights would use. They would carry it on them, and it was thin enough that it would fit between the plates of a knight's armor into the vulnerable points of a knight to be able to kill them and like put them out of their misery and stuff. So that's where I took the name from for the Misericorde. And so this was cross-skill, cross-class, anti-mage agency. Now, mind you, this doesn't mean they hate mages. Like, the Misericorde also consisted of mages as support people. So the idea was they basically trained people specifically how to counter arcane techniques and magical defenses and doctrines, and then they gave them sufficient magical support themselves to be able to act as a dedicated strike force / assassin force against the mages being used by Aurixia. And one of the main tools that they had for this is Depleted Arcanite. Which Depleted Arcanite is a form of Arcanite that has basically had magical force extracted, and the void. I cast magic missile. Hello, Faraday. Happy to have my favorite broken doll. How are you? Faraday is a good broken doll streamer, a very good bean, big bottom. What's a mage? Is a warlock a mage? Yes. Everything that uses arcane abilities is a mage. In my yes, it is like depleted uranium. It's like depleted uranium, and the void acts at... Oh, I was in the wrong screen. Alright, and the void acts as a magic... as anti-magic / siphon. So, Depleted Arcanite was the thing that the UA and the Misery Corps developed in the first few years of the war after they were having such a attrition, as basically a tool that you could use it to shred through mage defenses and stuff. Like if somebody is casting shield to protect them from your attack, if you're using a weapon that's made from Depleted Arcanite, it actually can penetrate through the shield. And stuff like that. So that was the main tool that they developed to equip their actual Misery Court operatives with to try and hunt down the mages that they were facing. So that gives you some context for that. The Misery Cord turned the tide of the war. So they turned the tide of the war because after they actually had a force that was trained, equipped, and capable with these tools, they unleashed it against the Auryxians. And over the span of months, all of the most capable battle mages the Auryxians were deploying were getting basically killed off. And the Auryxians couldn't do anything about it. So it started the slow decline where the one thing that was basically buffering the Auryxian military started to disappear, and without the mage support, the conventional armies of the Auryxians began to collapse. However, that doesn't mean that they were done and out. The Aurixia, in response, innovated. Innovated, but didn't finish. So, magical war tools. So basically, as the tide began to turn against Arcixia, the Arcane Conclave became increasingly desperate, and various members of the Conclave each began developing their own weapons projects to try and turn the tide of the war again. A lot of these projects were never finished, and the fact that the some of the the laboratories and stuff that they were done in still exist in Arcixia that people haven't discovered is a potential plot point. So, like, for example, the Arcane Conclave Magister of Conjuration was experimenting with ways to basically bind an elemental spirit into a mortal host for the purpose of creating an instant combat mage. So you'd basically you'd runically inscribe on a person's body all kinds of binding and summoning rituals. And then you would pull a fire elemental out of the plane of fire and bind it to that person's soul and body, and suddenly they became a one-man, fire mage, essentially. And so that was one of the projects that they experimented with. The Magister of Necromancy began experimenting with basically doing illegal necromancy. I ran out of pages. Started doing illegal necromancy because necromancy isn't evil in my campaign, but non-consensual necromancy is. And so basically the necromancers started doing that. And they also, like the Magister of Transmutation, basically figured out how to make arcane super soldiers. By basically installing a secondary heart inside of a person made from Arcanite, like runically inscribed Arcanite, and then pumping it full of basically Arcanite fluid blood. And so suddenly a person became an instant Eldritch Knight, essentially, but like much more powerful as they've activated raw magical energy coursing through their veins. Many of these projects were never got past the initial stages. And so by the time the war ended, most of them were never finished, but the aspects of them were felt, and some of the technology still exists, but hasn't been discovered yet. Consensual necromancy is good magic, yes. Because as a brief note from my previous stream, you are allowed to, normal necromancy of like raising non-intelligent undead doesn't matter. Like, that's perfectly legal. It's literally just you turning somebody's body into a, what's it called? Into a, like a puppet that they're just wielding with magic. And so that's why that's perfectly fine. Intelligent undead, when you die as intelligent undead, when you die, you can talk to the goddess of death and basically ask to come back to the world as an intelligent undead. I have a potential idea from one of my campaigns would work really well in yours. Oh, what is it, Autumn? And so, like, for instance, if you're doing a path to become a lich, part of you becoming a lich is you have to talk to the goddess of death and get authorized to become a lich. If you're not authorized by her to become a lich, you are an illegal undead, and the entire church of the Church of Termina and all of the ravens of the Raven Queen basically have open license to hunt you down and kill you, to return you to the eternal cycle of life and death. I'm happy you're invested, Rexy. But yeah, so that's consensual necromancy. So they've tried all these different things, but it didn't finish. The final nail in the coffin, Operation Nightfall. Operation Nightfall was the final beheading of the Arcane Conclave. The Misery Chord, while working in tandem with a particular traitor element in Aurixia, which is relevant to the plot for one of the NPCs that you recruit, basically was able to corner the Magisters of the Arcane Conclave, and in one fell swoop was able to kill them all off. And with all the Magisters gone and all the mages that had been killed prior to that point, the Arcane Conclave collapsed as a state. And the UA was able to complete their intervention into Arixia and start the process of a transition to power. So does anybody have any questions about the war itself and some of the things I explained there? Yes, I'm glad you think it's an interesting concept for undead. I have a lot of stuff about undead, which I talked about in my previous stream. So if you want more info about what it's like to die and how undeath works and stuff, please go watch the VOD from my previous stream called Vecnaya. It's a special necromantic contagious curse. People affected by it come back as a sentient undead who can regenerate from anything but their head. Main thing is any corpse they touch and interact with. Also, okay, yeah, that's like it's like zombieism basically, from like pop culture, which is neat. So like undead do pop up spontaneously in life. Like people come back as ghosts and ghouls and stuff against their will, but those are inherently illegal, and spreading your version of undeath to others is also incredibly immoral and illegal. Like you can choose. You can have the ability to petition the Goddess of Death to come back as undead to accomplish some goal or another. This adventure, I have a Lich license, but it's in my other set of robes. Fantasy Russia made thousands of Vecnaya to solve their logistics problems, but the idea had a big social cast. It would be really crazy. So there you go. That's my talk about the war. Whew. All right. Anybody has any questions on anything I've talked about so far, let me know. Otherwise, we are hopping to the campaign. The actual campaign. Nice TED Talk. Alright, so factions of the world. We'll start with main factions of Aurixia. So the main factions of Aurixia, I've outlined, it's five or so main actions. Will there be a quiz at the end? Yes, Nash Carlo. I hope you've been taking notes. Main factions for Rixia is, number one, you have the Inheritors, which are remnants of, I'm going to call them the AC for simplicity, instead of Arcane Conclave. Remnants of the AC / people who want to restore the previous regime. So there are a lot of reasons why somebody may want to restore the previous regime. Sweats and note taking. Panic in chat. There is sexy teacher Obsidia art now. Just imagine her punishing you for not studying for your test. I've got a ruler. So there's a lot of people, who might want to see the previous AC regime come back into place. A lot of it has become more popular in the 10 years since the end of the war, as they've seen what the world is like post the AC. And they realized that, maybe the AC wasn't so bad. Why they make that same thirsty comment? Oh boy. Oh no, I just made the collective chat sweat. That's some neuron activation. Alright, then you've got Shrikes. Gotta shrink that. The Shrikes are a non-AC, I'm gonna say anti-AC, anti-UA independence. Independence faction. So the Shrikes are basically a resistance group that has spawned in the wake of the war, who are both against the old ways of the Arcane Conclave and are also against what they see as cultural imperialism by the UA. Basically trying to culturally assimilate the Shrikes into the overall UA. And they want to see Aurixia be free and independent. But why can't I find it is the real question. Nas Carlo, I actually posted it in cult announcements in my Discord. If you want to go see the art of sexy teacher Obsidia. Actually, fuck it. I'll just post it right here. Where is my picture? We're going to take a brief pause so I can show you sexy Cydia. Cult announcements. There we go. Link. Save. And art. There we go. I'm going to post it in chat here in just a second. Wait, F. Okay. It's a little sketch that ZZ did a couple days ago in his stream because I redeemed a doodle redeem. Shreks, hey now, you're a D&D player. Why can't I? Art. Honey? Sorry about this detour, everybody. Huh. Guess I need to download it or something? Well, I'm sorry. I can't show it to you right now because it is having difficulty displaying. There we go. Save image as. Teacher. Cydia. There we go. Teacher Cydia. I got it. Disgusting. So her bone halo is made up of erasers and chalk. And I love it. So yeah, that's sexy teacher Obsidian. Oh, and apparently it's dangerous to go alone in these trying times, as I explained D&D. But I will need my faithful paladin here to defend me. Thank you, Nas Carlo. Ta-da! My Astolfo body pillow. So we'll take this break from our regularly scheduled D&D for sexy teacher Obsidia. Is it everything? How would you feel if this Obsidia taught you? Alright, that's enough of that. Alright, so the Shrikes, they want independence. So they're like so they're just like against all of the other factions kind of thing. They also are the most like they want the most change. Oh my, this is overwhelming. I feel ready to get schooled. Oh my gosh. All right, 3 is the Justicari. Justicari. They are a pro-UA militant group and peacekeepers. So, their purpose is they're anti the people who are anti the UA. They think that they're acting in a civilizing capacity within Aurixia. Then you have the Magna Collegium, which is international organization of mages and scholars. Mages and scholars. So I gotta bounce, but I'll catch you later. Okay, well, thank you, Aradia. Thank you for coming by. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you had fun with my lore talk. I hope you have a great night. So this is like, you know, aside from Arixia, the Magna Collegium was the primary international body across the different UA nations of basically acting as an international just force of education and magical, you know, knowledge for international good kind of thing. they're not necessarily pro-UA in Aurixia. They're pro trying to get pro looting AC. They're here because they want those sweet, sweet magical secrets that the Arixian Magocracy had hoarded to themselves. So they're, I would say, a more minor out of the main factions, but they are a faction operating here. They're less concerned with the political outcome of Aurixia as the other three, but they are they're still involved with the kind of missions and affairs that are happening within Aurixia itself. And then 5, the final big international org is the Nexus Compact, which is a mega corporation tasked by the UA. They're there for the money, yeah, basically. Tasked by the UA to do nation building and development. And development of the High Conclave. They fund these operations because, while it's too expensive for the UA to actually occupy Rixia and do this themselves, they basically gave the Compact monopoly, or go paid by paid by monopoly on Arcanite export. So they're paid by Arcanite. The fact that they control, this is basically fucking ExxonMobil being put in charge of international development. The Nexus Compact operates out in Aurixia to do assistance to the High Conclave, helping stabilize the country, helping it become a fully functional member of the international community, by also taking all the Arcanite and exporting that to the UA for profit and pleasure. And they don't really care about the High Conclave. They just want power. And they think that this might be a good way to basically create a state where they have total control over the most valuable substance for industrial purposes. And the Nexus Compact is the primary employer of free companies, which are basically ex-soldiers, veterans, adventurers, etc. I just cut myself with my own fingernail. So yeah, they employ free companies of ex-soldiers, veterans, adventurers, etc. to operate within Aurixia to basically help stabilize the country and accomplish goals of the various international organizations operating there. This is the primary way that players, like if the players want to be a UA affiliated or just mercenary affiliated playthrough, they're probably going to be a free company being employed by the Nexus Compact in some way. Because the Nexus Compact basically gives you a place to have a base of operations, and they will help ensure you get jobs and stuff around the country. But aside from that, you're kind of left to your own devices. So the Nexus Compact is the greatest example of the evils of capitalism. And it is literally like the CEO of it is a non-magical person who she's just a really good business person / bureaucrat accountant, and her secretary is a greed demon who assists her in all of her corporate tasks. So yeah, basically ExxonMobil in charge of international development is the Nexus Compact. And each of these different organizations has their own agendas. All orgs have own agendas and potential campaign seeds. So that's kind of the brief talk about the some of the main factions that'll be operating within Aurixia. What could possibly go wrong with this idea? Anybody have any questions about any example factions? And then there's, of course, more minor factions involved. Like, some of the minor factions could be, churches. If anybody is affiliated with the Ravens, which is an organization I talked about in the previous stream, who are basically tasked with helping ferry souls from the material plane to the afterlife and hunting down illegal undead, etc. Those are other organizations that are operating. Like, for instance, the Raven of the East, the Valkyrius, he and his Talons do have agents within Aurixia, fulfilling their job as stewards of the afterlife. But yeah, it's basically just, it's a sliding scale of how pro one country or the other you want to be and how mercenary you want to be. At the end of the day, like, you could just be a free company operating within Aurixia and just have your own, like, party agendas that you do. Like, that would probably be a minor faction as a part of the Inheritors, Autumn. But yeah, like, because the ultimate goal here is I want each of the characters to have a background, like a backstory, and an agenda reason why they are in Aurixia currently. And that is what the campaign is structured really around, is the characters fulfilling each of their particular agendas for why they're there. Yeah, you could just be a merc. You're just there for the money. You don't care who winds up in charge. And, like, one of the things is the campaign can be, like, as you do things, factions can get more powerful than others, and you may be a totally mercenary person and inadvertently lead to the Nexus Compact taking over the country and declaring independence. Like, basically like New Vegas in Fallout New Vegas. Like, that's something that can happen as a premise. But at the end of the day, these are all things that the players can engage with or not engage with as much or as little as they want. And that was kind of my primary goal in doing this. Is these are tools for a player to create like a story for their character. What about a humanitarian movement? Came to Rixia to solve problems resulting from the war, but slowly came to support the Arixian populace for their UA home countries. Well, there is a minor spoiler there, but that is actually an aspect of the Shrikes. Part of the background of the Shrikes that I've written is very similar to that, Autumn. It's an overlap between the Justicari and the Shrikes. And basically somebody who saw that what they were doing in the country wasn't necessarily, like, the most good that they could be doing. And maybe that the country really needed to not have this kind of involvement in it. And they helped create the Shrikes movement. And to be clear, like, the free companies themselves aren't, like, exclusively made of UA people. Like, you can be somebody from Aurixia who has decided to, you know, advance in life by becoming a member of one of these free companies. You could be an entire free company of Arixians operating within Aurixia. It's just a lot of them are UA. But, you know, when the High Conclave collapsed, the entire military collapsed in Aurixia. And because of that, a lot of soldiers who were not necessarily mages suddenly needed employment. And so, like, they're good at fighting. Fuck it, let's get paid. The mages are gone anyway. We've got new mages coming in who don't have the same cultural beliefs as us. There's still, you know, remnant mages who maybe didn't think that the AC was in the best interests of Aurixia, and they think that there's potential for new social advancement independent of the old regime. Because now that the Arcane Conclave is gone, all the rules are gone. And those rules weren't things that the UA practiced. Like, mages can marry other mages, have mage kids, and live little mage lives. That was not a big deal in the UA. It was just all about, like, what you could do to contribute to society, and basically how you could monetize your usefulness, much like with capitalism. And so, you know, a lot of people who were maybe more minor mage members of the previous Arixian administration think of this is a great deal of freedom. They no longer have all the rules around how they can do their families and how they can basically ascend to power and stuff. So these are all notes of like things about the world. So, because at the end of the day, I just want 4 people to just write what they want to achieve while they're in this country. Like, maybe they're a person from the UA whose father got murdered by some, you know, fucking assassin in one of the capital cities who fled to Arixia. And now they're here working, trying to hunt down that assassin. That's independent of literally everything I've spent the last 6 hours talking about. But that brings them to the country, and now they have to deal with all the stuff going on in the country around them. But ultimately, their particular story arc is going to be focused around the search to find that assassin. And it's just the world around them isn't what is going to determine their character's choices. It's just things that help develop the character and the situations around that character's plotline. So that's my goal with the setting. Any questions about anything I just talked about? For the campaign, the faction, anything else? Any ideas about anybody from the things I've said that they want to talk about? This is now the open question, open input portion of the stream. Yeah. Oh. All right. So for stuff that I haven't talked about that I'm still working on is, let's go to a new screen. All right, so world building. Actual world building. So the things I still need to develop. There we go. Things I still need to develop. So one is flesh out the war itself. The war itself and its origin. 2, I need to, I guess, what's it called? God, why am I entirely blanking out? Flesh out Arixia itself. Flesh out Arixia itself. Create, I'll call them side story adventure seeds. And, we need to talk about dragons more. I have a whole thing about dragons. Because I was conflicted about how I wanted to deal with dragons for the setting. And then I realized the way I was doing it made it harder to justify things like the Dragonborn in my setting. I didn't necessarily want to do that. So these are like 4 points that I need to flesh out more. The problem is with the way I'm doing this version of storytelling I'm limited in how much I can really do without knowing what kind of campaign the players want to play in, as well as what kind of character stories they want to play for their characters. So, like, this is like stuff I can do as like outline things that exist independently of the actual characters. So, the talk about dragons is previously in millennia ago, there was basically a big draconic empire that existed on this world, which I have never named this world. Name, world, and setting. I still need to name the planet. Yeah, so the idea that I was going with was there was a draconic empire where the original, like, dragonborn and kobolds and lizard folk and stuff were from, and, like, dragons ruled. Eventually that empire collapsed. Some theorize that the dead dragons and stuff became the first Arcanite. In the modern world, I was torn between... I'll draw some arrows for this. Go back to this layer. Are you not drawing? Me? I was torn between, we'll call it hunted versus, I guess we'll call it like adjusted. That's just the real world. That's Shadowrun right there. You want the Shadowrun setting. You've got dragons in charge of corporations. So my original idea was that most of the dragons, like the true dragons, have been hunted to relative extinction to basically harvest them for magic bits in the millennia or in the centuries before the campaign takes place. And any remaining dragons are basically Dunkelzane for president. Dunkelzane won! Too bad he got assassinated on his inauguration. But yeah, so and then having the remaining dragons be super rare, but they're basically like protected citizens now within the UA. And most of them just operate as mortals, like in human forms and stuff. Just to kind of lay low, be corporate people, etc. That was my original idea. But it gets kind of problematic for that like, because I have Dragonborn aren't like their own race. Dragonborn are basically people descended from dragons. Kind of like Sorceress Bloodline of Dragon, like picked up to 11. So you're a half dragon, you know, you got a dragon in your bloodline. You can get born as a Dragonborn. And a Dragonborn is kind of like a mutant of a given other race. So you could be a Dragonborn, we'll say Orc Red Dragon. So you could be an Orc who's got red dragon traits about him. Like he's got horns and he's got spiked teeth and stuff. He's got those snake eyes, etc. But he's still an orc. But stat-wise, he's a Dragonborn. Because the Dragonborn themselves are not their own race. They're basically dragon lineage. And like kobolds and lizard folk are the closest to people who are like a true dragon subsidiary. But, so, because of that, I was thinking of just having dragons. Most dragons are just, like, people within society. Like, they do form their own power groups, like running corporations, doing nature preserves, stuff like that. Because most dragons know better than to try and, like, go around burning villages, because in the modern world, like, the UA is going to send a bunch of airships after you and fucking bomb the shit out of you if you're a dragon who decides to go cause, like, mass havoc and stuff. So, I would like to think that they decided to reframe themselves as basically very powerful members of mortal society. So what do you guys think about that as concepts? And I'm open to other ones as well. Those are just ones that I've been toying with. But I liked the idea of having dragons be something from a bygone era in a lot of ways, and not something that a group of plucky adventurers gets together and hunts down for fat loot. Like, I like the idea of a dragon who is a corporate CEO, and they view their horde as their company. Only occasionally eating an employee. You're gonna pull a Darth Sidious to get to power through money in the Senate? Yeah, basically. But yeah, so having the dragons be background people more than foreground people. Here for a second, sorry. But yeah, so that's one of the things I'm still debating about. I'm leaning more towards just having them be adjusted members of society. Why is there a random Astolfo pillow? Because I love Astolfo, Gray. That's why. Like, I love Astolfo. If you like unfollowed me right now and refollowed me, there's gonna be an Astolfo. Actually, I could just test widget this. Second. There you go. See? It's all my alerts are Astolfo. Sub. With the donation. And did I do one for host? I did. There you go. There you go. All of my alerts are Astolfo. I've got my Astolfo body pillow. I'm all about that Astolfo life. So, yeah, that is why Astolfo's on the screen. I have a redeem called It's Dangerous to Go Alone, where somebody puts an Astolfo body pillow on the screen. Okay, well, aside from these points that I'm talking about, what I'm currently doing with the campaign is I'm playtesting actual mechanics of it. So, because I'm using a lot of Iron Kingdom's rules from their 5th edition books that came out, but obviously this isn't an Iron Kingdoms game, so I'm kind of sifting through what I want to port over to my setting. And so I have a group of people who I play with on Thursdays off stream, who are playtesting those mechanics. And then there's my Tuesday D&D group that I play my Eberron campaign with, who they are going to be playtesting some more of the subclasses and stuff from the Iron Kingdoms game. And then once I've gotten Warjacks might exist. I haven't confirmed if I want to do Warjacks or not. Because the thing is, I'm getting rid of Warcasters, and Warjacks without casters are not quite the same. But that is something I am debating. What else is there? So the idea is I'm doing all the playtesting, all the going over mechanics, and then eventually, once I'm done with that, I'm going to reach out to my D&D group that I stream with for waifus and warriors, and I'm going to see how many of them want to actually stream a campaign of this that I run. And I'm also going to talk to some of my other friends about joining it as well, to get a party of people I know and trust. And my goal is to eventually stream this on Twitch for you guys, like once a week. Probably on like Wednesdays, maybe Wednesdays or Fridays. Not sure yet, but one of those days. But that's still probably several months away. But I appreciate all of you guys for sitting here during my playtest. I mean my world building talk. I think with this, it's probably a good place to end here for the night. Kind of covered all the things I wanted to cover. If you have any other questions, you can let me know. Also, those are my socials. You can give me a follow here on Twitch, a sub over on YouTube, where I also post up the full VODs of all my streams. So if you want to watch the full, I guess, almost 6 hours of me talking about the world building for this, you'll be able to. I also have YouTube exclusive content. You can also follow me on Twitter, and you can join our Discord, the Eternal Citadel, and be a part of my amazing community. I get more chances to talk to me about this stuff. Because there's one thing I love doing, it's talking about Dungeons & Dragons. So maybe I might do another D&D stream, but instead talking about my Eberron campaign that I've been running now and some of the aspects of that. That's less of a world building and more of just like story time with Obsidia and about my world building choices involved with that. And if you have any questions about them or things that you might think are cool to take for your own setting. I spent a lot of time like thinking about how I wanted Eberron to be for my campaign, and I basically brought it into life. And I think I did a pretty good job with it. My players seem to like it, so. Woot woot! I'm glad you love Eberron, as do I. I use some of the Eberron for, this setting, basically. I think of it as kind of a cross between Eberron and Iron Kingdoms in some ways. So, but yeah, those are my links. We're going to hop on over to a different part of the throne room. Ta-da! All right, thank you everybody for sticking it out with me tonight. I really appreciate it. I hope you had fun listening to me rant about D&D for 3 hours. I know I had fun talking about it with you. You guys brought up a lot of really cool points for me to consider going forward. You also brought up, you had some great questions about my setting, which made me, think harder about the setting itself and what I wanted it to be. So yeah, I really appreciate it. My model was based on an NPC from a game I ran, the Porcelain Skin Automatons, based that-wise on the Warforged. Ooh, I like it. I like to hear that, Faraday. That's some of that good lore. Alright, well, I want you all to know that you are all beautiful, amazing, and valid people. You are all so wonderful, and I'm so happy I got to share this stream with you. And I want you to know, as long as you're within my stream, I will always, you can be whoever you are and who you want to be, and I will cherish you for it. And never forget the most important thing, which is that the world is better having you in it. Alright, we are going to be finding a La Red target for La Night. Did them recently. Thinking. I don't think I've rated this person before. I'll do this person. Alright, so if you are a follower, please copy down the call to hugs message as our raid message. If you are a sub, please copy down the knight's message. And those will be our raid message for the evening. We are going to be raiding none other than Lumia Stargazer. She is she's a dragon. And she is the wonderful partner of Etherean Strider, who is a very good bean. So we are going to give her a raid. I have not raided her before, as far as I'm aware. So let's send her lots and lots and lots of Death Knight hugs, lots of Death Knight love. Thank you all so much for bearing with me tonight. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I'll be back here Friday, where I'm going to be streaming more of Fallout New Vegas, baby! So be sure to come on by. I can't wait to share it with you. All right, everybody, have a great night. Bye!